and welcome to Speech Communication 4397, Effective Meeting Management. This is class number 10 this semester. We welcome channel surfers who may be tuning in for the first time. I'm Dr. Martha Hahn, the course faculty member. I have with me today our guest, Mr. Eddie Webster from the Houston Convention Bureau, and I'll be turning the program over to him shortly. First, I need to remind all of you students at home to be sure to read your syllabus thoroughly. You have some deadline dates coming up, some face-to-face meetings, a midterm exam. So jog your memory on those things and pay attention to those deadlines. Give us a call if you need a clarification or have a problem with something. Okay, we've been talking about convention planning. In the last couple of weeks, we've talked about negotiating hotel contracts, working with the hotels in food services and catering services, special events. We've alluded to the role of the Convention Bureau, and today we're going to focus on that more specifically. How big do you have to be, or how small can you be for the Convention Bureau to help you out? What kinds of things does a bureau do, etc. And so again, let me say our guest today is Mr. Eddie Webster. He's been here, I believe, 3 years, coming to us from Louisville. He may choose to tell you more about his background in the course of this. But we welcome you. Thanks for taking time out of what I know is a busy schedule to come over here and be our guest.
Thank you, Dr. Hahn.
Now, what is it you do?
Well,
or what is it your bureau does?
We do an awful lot, and I appreciate this opportunity to come and speak to you. Those of you who are here in the class today, as well as those of you who are at home. It's fun to talk about what we do because we're in an awfully fun business. The Convention and Visitor Bureau is an operation that's really key to the success of major conventions that come to cities all over America. It's the key to the major success of the hotel industry in America today from a sales and marketing standpoint. And I think as we progress along talking about what a Convention Bureau is all about, what it does, you'll have a better understanding of how the Bureau fits into the big scheme of things from a meeting planning standpoint. We'll also touch a little bit on tourism promotion and advertising and image and give you a good idea of what all a Convention Bureau does and how it does it. My job here in Houston has been extremely interesting for the last 3 years. As Dr. Hahn said, I've only been here for 3 years, so I'm relatively new to your city. I've had the opportunity, though, to be in this business for about 26 years. And like most of us out there, luck has a little bit to do with where we end up and what kind of job path we take, even though we attempt to specialize a little more today, I guess, than you did when I was in school. But when I came out of college, I knew I wanted to pursue a job in sales and marketing because that was my major in a school of business. But I had no earthly idea that I'd end up in the Convention Bureau industry or even in the hospitality industry for that fact. After school, I worked very briefly with the Chamber of Commerce, and that's how I got in this business. The first Convention Bureau operation I worked for was 25 years ago in Montgomery, Alabama. I was the director of a tourist and convention department for the Montgomery, Alabama Chamber of Commerce. And I tell you that not to talk too much about my career, but to give you an idea of the type of operations there are in America today. I'm probably one of the few in the industry today that runs a Convention Bureau that's actually worked in all sizes of Convention Bureau operations. Having started 25 years ago in a relatively small city like Montgomery, Alabama, running a department within a Chamber of Commerce, you'll find that a lot of Convention Bureaus still have that look and feel. They're departments of Chambers of Commerce in small cities. After that, I went up to Birmingham and actually then joined the Birmingham Convention and Visitor Bureau, a little larger city, a little larger slate of goals and objectives and direction for the Bureau. So in that case, it was an independent operation, independent from government, from the chamber, et cetera, et cetera. So that was my first real exposure to a Convention and Visitor Bureau that took on all aspects of what we'll talk about today. I've worked not only in a city like Birmingham, Alabama, that was a pretty tough sell, to be very honest with you, when I was there, but it was predominantly convention promotion. And I've also headed up a convention bureau that was predominantly tourist related. I headed up the Palm Springs, California Convention and Visitor Bureau. That's about as different as you can get from Birmingham, Alabama to Palm Springs, California. I made that jump for several reasons. Personally, it gave me an opportunity to be involved in a lot of things in this industry that I hadn't been involved with before. From there, I went to Louisville, Kentucky, which is a great mid-sized city in America today with some excellent convention facilities, and then here to Houston, Texas. That's basically my background. And with that type of experience, I really have experienced a number of different types of cities in relationship to what a convention bureau really does. A convention and visitor bureau can take on many looks and feels according to the role that the community, that the hospitality industry needs for it to take on, whether it be predominantly convention solicitation, predominantly tourism solicitation, et cetera, et cetera. But basically, most bureaus in America today are independent, nonprofit trade associations. Our bureau here in Houston is a 501c6, which is an independent, nonprofit trade association. I have a board of directors that I report directly to. This board of directors are laced with men and women from the hospitality industry and the business community here in Houston who are vitally interested in economic development in relationship to tourism and convention promotion. The board is elected from the membership of the bureau, so that lets you know that we've got a membership. Hotels, restaurants, all types of transportation, everything from buses to airlines, other businesses that provide services to convention and visitors when they come to town, the attractions, everything from major sports to the museums, the performing and visual arts. I can go on and on. All of these entities are members, dues-paying members to our association called the Houston Convention and Visitor Bureau. Each year there's an election of board members, and these men and women make up the nucleus of the decision-making of our organization in relationship to goals and objectives, budgeting. They hire me, and I am the president of the corporation. So not unlike any other president of any profit-making corporation, I then have the duty to suggest and submit budgets, hire a staff that is capable and trained and experienced to carry out the goals and objectives set by the board. Most bureaus in America today evolved from departments of chambers of commerce. Let's go back a second and talk about, as I mentioned to you, I started out with a chamber of commerce in the mid-60s in Montgomery, Alabama. What happened in America in relationship to bureaus was about 30 years ago, 25 to 30 years ago, there was a push or a movement by the hotel industry to create a better funded, therefore more professional, more capable convention and visitor bureau situation in America today. And so to do this, instead of raising dues, what the hotel community in America did was suggest a tax on themselves to be funneled to the Convention and Visitor Bureau operation. For instance, here in Houston, this Convention Bureau, as it stands today, an independent trade association, is about 28 years old. So about 28 years ago, it was a department of the Chamber of Commerce. And what happened in Houston is pretty much normal for what happened all over America. The hotel community decided they wanted their bureau better funded to do bigger and better things. So they passed a bed tax or a occupancy tax. It's called a lot of things in a lot of places, but basically it's the bed tax that's collected.
We've talked about that
okay.
Because New York nearly priced themselves out of business, I understand.
They technically have done that. Even though they've reduced the bed tax, it's going to be years and years before the New York as a destination for major conventions can rebound. The large majority of all conventions in the country have literally boycotted by casual vote or by specific vote, boycotted New York because of the bed tax. Bed tax was levied here in Houston about 28 years ago, and a portion, if not all of it, I'm not sure about the exact amount at that time, then went through the governmental channels and was dedicated to the Convention and Visitor Bureau. Today here in Houston, we have a portion of the bed tax still coming through the city government and the county government to the Convention Bureau. That's the majority of our funding. And we contract for that bed tax. And by contracting for that bed tax, it still gives us an independent arm's length position from government. So we're still a nonprofit, separate entity, so to speak, governed by a board of directors. Myself being the president of the corporation, I have the ability to hire a staff to carry out those goals and objectives. Yet at the same time, we have the luxury of receiving a portion of that bed tax, which is destined to our organization, collected by the local hotels in Houston and Harris County. Our budget this year in Houston, for instance, is about $8.5 million. We're on a fiscal year that runs from July to June. And so this year, starting out in July, we budgeted about $8.5 million budget. Approximately a little over $6 million of that comes from bed tax. About $1 million of it comes from memberships, dues, in other words, that hotels and restaurants and other entities pay. We have a relatively low dues system, and as you can tell, it's not for raising monumental amounts of money, but of course $1 million is big money, but still it's not like we expect our budget from dues to carry the organization. Our philosophy is to have the dues equitably and reasonably at a level where anybody who really wants to be a member can pay dues and be a member. Then we get about $1 million from various programs that we run, fair share programs. We may go to a major trade show where meeting planners are present, and we negotiate a package deal. Any hotel salespeople who want to go with us, they would pay a minimal amount of money to go with us. That's a fair share type deal. We also receive monies from cooperative advertising programs. It's our duty to put together not only an advertising program that enhances the convention and the visitor viability of this destination, but at the same time we try to get our money to go as far as we can. So in certain instances we put cooperatively funded programs together so hotels and attractions can buy in at a lesser amount than it would cost them to do a standalone project, and they can then advertise nationally with us, where in most cases they wouldn't have the ability to do that. But we collect about $1 million in those efforts. So that's the makeup of our about $8.5 million budget. We rank, unfortunately, in the bottom of the one-third list on budgets for major convention cities. In the last 3 years here, we have increased our budget from $5 million to $8.5 million. So we've gone from dead last to moving up really into a medium position on budget for major cities. Unfortunately, Houston has not done a great job in the last 10 years of convention and tourist solicitation. And coming here to Houston, we had a pretty huge job in front of us to kind of turn the corner and work this city back into a major position with meeting planners, as well as start a tourism program. And I am going to touch on that for you in a minute, the tourism side of the picture, because it's very important to us. To give you a little breakdown of the many aspects of this bureau here in Houston, we do have a convention sales department. You would expect us to have that. We have 10 convention sales managers that work in our office. We also have a fully staffed sales department that's located in Washington, D.C. Main reason for that is the bulk of all trade association executives, decision makers for national trade association business, are headquartered in Washington. They're there for the obvious lobbying reason that most associations take on, but then of course it gives us an opportunity also to have an office there and be in touch with the lion's share of the decision makers in major convention business there in D.C. The other location where we have a lot of meeting planners headquartered is in Chicago, and we do a lot of direct work in Chicago all the time for that reason. We'll get back to the convention sales aspect of what we do in a minute, but I wanted to make sure you understand the convention sales makeup of our staff. And we also have a convention services department. The convention services department in our case is staffed by 8 people. who do various duties in relationship to meeting planners. Our philosophy at the Bureau is not unlike the major convention hotels. Once a convention is booked into the city of Houston, the sales manager may still take an active role in certain cases, but the convention services department basically takes over at that point and provides all of the services needed by the meeting planner in preparing, planning, conducting, and producing a major convention here in Houston. Part of that services staff also conducts what I call a lot of times a necessary evil, and that is housing, a housing function. Most major groups, we'll talk about this group a little more in a minute, for instance, the National Home Builders Association. Most of you probably know that it came to Houston last February, and we have them booked for 2 more years, this coming February and then the February following. In this case, we had to have a housing program, which we ran and operated, which basically received all of the request for housing in hotels all over Houston and Harris County. We had an excess of 60,000 people come during that week for home builders. So we made reservations for them in all the hotels throughout Harris County and conducted that housing operation. Well, it takes personnel and a really good computer program to do that. And
now,
so that's part of servicing.
Why did they not reserve directly with the hotels? Why didn't you send them a list of hotels and say, pick your own?
It's the meeting planner's decision that takes place. Meeting planners want a housing because of ease of finding a room. For instance, if you're a member of Home Builders and we didn't have a housing package, and you knew that 60,000 of your closest friends were going to come to Houston for a week, what would happen if you started to make those calls is the hotels that were considered better locations, closer to the Dome, for instance, would be booked up first. You might not know this, and you might have to make 20 phone calls before you found availability. So to eliminate that hassle of calling hotels, and also there's the rate situation, eliminating the hassle of calling numerous hotels and having to negotiate and on your own for what you would consider a good rate. The meeting planner, herself or himself, does that for you. They come into a city, they literally meet with every hotel in the housing package, and they negotiate a set rate for every hotel. They publish those rates for the specific hotels, pardon me, and they also make sure that you have the opportunity to send a request in requesting certain hotels, and then it's a first come, first served situation.
Okay, so you get to rank order your preferences, and the Bureau meets those.
That's correct. And if we can't, then we give you the next best thing.
Question: when you speak about the Home Builders Association conventions you just put on, did it take place in the Astrodome? I guess is my first question.
Yes, sir. It certainly did.
Okay. As your hotels go out further from inline from the Astrodome, you're going to have different rates. You've got the Sheraton Astrodome, and you've got the Holiday Inn, and the Westin Galleria, and all those places. But you're talking 60,000 people. First of all, where'd you put everyone? And were these people classified by group and rate by group? In other words, if they were coming from Toledo, they only wanted to spend X amount of dollars for a hotel, whereas maybe the group from Boston could pay more, and so you put them in the Westin. Is that how you worked it out?
Well, their particular housing package is pretty complicated. It may be one of the most complicated housing packages I've ever dealt with, because home builder staff themselves comes in and they book a city for 3 years in a row for one basic reason, where they can negotiate all of this, and the logistics of putting on a show like this, where they use 1 million square feet of exhibit space in the Dome and 300,000 square feet outside for outside exhibits, would be almost impossible to move every year. So to give you a little background, that's why they stay in one place for 3 years. There's another underlying reason, and it has to do with housing. What they actually do is they don't really give the delegate a carte blanche ability to choose 3 hotels. They give them a set of hotels to choose from in a certain area. And say if you were the Home Builders Association from Ohio, you had the ability in year 1 to only book your hotels within the block, say out at Intercontinental Airport. In year 2, they would give you the opportunity to be at the Sheraton Astrodome. And in year 3, you might get the Galleria area. or downtown. So in other words, they take their huge package, they divide it up by state or area in blocks, and they give you the opportunity to book in relationship, as you said, to the Dome, an A location in year 1, a C location in year 2, and a B location in year 3, for instance. And that's how they work that, and they have to, because except for Las Vegas in this country, there is no city that can really handle home builders and give everybody a fairly equal opportunity to be real close. No matter where they go, a Houston, a Dallas, or an Orlando, an Atlanta, and these are cities, by the way, where home builders can go and get the exhibit space that they need, which is another real problem. These are all cities that they do rotate to every 10 to 15 years, and so they know unless they go to Las Vegas, which they do, by the way, about every 6 to 9 years, that they have to spread out and have this problem with housing. So our housing department within the services department handles and works with them and coordinates the blocks, gets all the blocks available from the hotels, makes sure the meeting planner understands what the rate structure is so that they can negotiate, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It basically, for last November 95's meeting, we started working on the housing package in late 93 here in Houston. We have about 45,000 hotel rooms in Harris County. This last year's housing package went all the way to Galveston, which also brings up another challenge for services with most major groups, and that is that of transportation. We also coordinated a busing situation for the delegates of home builders, which we coordinated and had to bring a professional in this case, a gentleman out of New Jersey who handles major movements of people for sporting events and major conventions all over the country. There's only 6 or 8 companies in the country that have the ability and the contacts and the personnel and the expertise to come in and handle a movement of people like this. He happens to be one of them, and we negotiated with him to come in and do this on our behalf with home builders, and we moved people every day from all the hotels all over Houston, Harris County, Clear Lake, Galveston, had people as far away as Conroe, the Woodlands, etc.
Let me jog their memory here and give you a moment to breathe. You remember when Dr. Fain was here, he talked to you about how we moved a speech tournament that overlapped with this weekend. You know, you would think if you're running a little tournament on campus, 300 people or whatever, getting 20 or 30 rooms in Houston would be no big deal. But when you bump into this kind of major event, it is, because we hadn't signed a contract 3 years out or 4 years out, and it was just easier to move the tournament than bus our people in from Lake Jackson or something.
Yeah, actually, home builders that came in last February '95 was actually booked 7 years out. And the negotiation for rooms and room blocks and the commitment to literally give all available rooms to home builders was made 5 years out. Now, negotiation for rates didn't start till 2 and 2.5 years out. But that's a scenario you get in. When you're talking about large meetings, home builders is not a real good example because it is the largest in America today. And there's so many things that goes on with home builders that do not go on with other large meetings that are only 5 and 10,000 and 20,000 people.
So you all are worried about planning for 500 out here for projects.
Yeah, even 500 though, you have the same situations. Although for a group of 500, it's usually totally in one hotel, and that eliminates housing and busing and movement. But it doesn't eliminate negotiations with airlines for good rates and so forth like that. Yes, sir.
Out of my mouth, our project is to do a 500, and after hearing the astronomical figures and raising the questions we've raised, it ought to seem more than simple. But the wonderful thing about 500, if you're going to book them into a resort property with 600 guest suites, lanais, and all the kinds of room, you're not going to have to go very far.
That's right.
And if all your activities in your convention center or whatever it is you're going to be doing can take place in the hotel, you don't have the transportation problem.
That's right.
Ergo, the only thing you've got left to do is the airline.
That's right. And that's technically correct, unless, of course, you, another aspect of meeting planning, of course, is is accompanying persons programs. And in most cases, with most groups that come into Houston, that is an aspect of meeting planning, at least in the association market. If it's a corporate market, and others maybe not, but in the association market, club market, etc., you usually have an accompanying persons program. And in that case, you're going to have a movement of people. Whether you take them, for instance, here in Houston, to Space Center Houston, to the museum area, maybe to a performing arts situation, maybe to the Galleria to shop, or maybe even a combination of all of those over a 2 or 3 day period of time. So you could have a movement situation in that case, and you would have to negotiate rates with busing, and then rates for entrance fees, and then possibly a luncheon situation outside the hotel, et cetera, et cetera.
And we've talked about, pardon me,
yes.
We've talked about tag-on activities on the front end, pre-meeting, post-meeting, special events, and I would assume a lot of that happens.
Well, in most cases, if you've got a group that comes in, the norm, and you know, I hate to start talking about the norm because then you can bring up 30 different situations that are outside the norm. That's what's so exciting about this business. It's always kept me interested because it's not like selling steel I-beams and the steel I-beam looks the same no matter how we produce it. We're selling a city that can look 15 different ways to 15 different meeting planners. The meeting planner may have a group of just women that are coming to town for a meeting, or just men, or a family-oriented meeting. Or it can be a group of individuals who are predominantly worried about just a business meeting. Or it can be a fun group that's going to have a few meetings and a few speakers, but are really entertainment-oriented. It can be a group that has only one major meeting every day, a la a religious organization, where everybody gets in one room every day, whether it's maybe 10,000 people. National Baptist Sunday School comes to mind. They come to your city, they have very few breakout needs, but 10,000 to 15,000 people get in the same room every day, all day long. Or it may be a group like Home Builders that has some meetings, and very few, I might add, but has 1 million gross square feet need in a hall for a trade show situation. And then you get into all kinds of other negotiated services when you get into the trade show side of the business. So that's what keeps me and has kept me interested in this business all these years, is you take a city like Houston, people who don't know much about our business say to me a lot of times, oh gosh, Houston, how can you sell Houston? What is there to do in Houston? What they don't understand is Houston is looked at from 100 different eyes in 1 million different ways by different meeting planners who have different objectives for their particular meeting. And our city, keep in mind, and any city in America that's visited by a convention, the average, the norm again, is to only be in town 3 days. I can take you into, with a good positive attitude, I can take you into almost any city in America today, even one that you might think, oh, what is there to do in that city? And if we're only going to be there for 3 days, we're probably going to have a great time. Because one night, for sure, we're going to be in a banquet situation in the hotel. Maybe the first night there, you're going to have an opening reception, and it's going to be dinner on your own. And actually, you're going to have only one real free night. Well, anywhere in America today, I can take you, and we can have a great time. We're only going to be there one night, I can guarantee you. If you look at our offering, a city the size of Houston, Texas, is unbelievably prepared to really host major convention business. We've got one negative, and I'll get into that before we finish today. But we have a tremendous offering and availability of restaurants. We've got more first-class restaurants than almost any city in the country, except maybe for New York.
And ours are more affordable.
Very, very affordable. We have an ethnic diversity in this community that we sell as an unbelievable positive because of food and various activities and festivals and events. The makeup of our population is a positive in almost every situation when we're going after convention business. We have the performing arts. We're only one of 4 cities in America today that have all aspects of the performing arts alive and well and functioning and funded. We have museums, the museum district in relationship to the medical center is one of the finest museum districts in America today. Museum of History and Science, by the way, is the second most attended museum in America today, right behind the Smithsonian. Most people don't know that. Our attractions, our family-oriented attractions, everything from Astroworld to the Space Center Houston to Moody Gardens, our relationship to the beach in the south, and Galveston is really doing great things to bring their attractiveness up to par. The outside sports, golf, tennis, boating, all a year-round climate which is conducive to doing business year-round. People sometimes talk about the hot summers here in Houston, and it's amusing to me that Houstonians do themselves a bad rap talking about the hot summers as if we're the only city in America that gets hot in August. And a lot of people have said to me, oh gosh, how are you going to sell Houston in August? And I get terribly amused and laugh about that. One of the most successful recent phenomenons in America today from a tourism standpoint is Orlando and Disney World. And there's millions of people lining up every August with sweat dripping off their nose to see Mickey Mouse. So, I mean, you know, the weather is absolutely not a deterrent here. As a matter of fact, in January and February and March, we have a tremendous amount of good convention business, and meeting planners want to bring a scheduled winter meeting in here because of the weather. You go to Chicago and you run a good chance of being in 4 feet of snow.
Better meet at the airport.
That's exactly right. Other aspects of the city are all our professional sports and college sports. We have all aspects of professional sports, at least this year. We have, we do have all of the many aspects that make a city of this size attractive. Yes, sir.
You kind of led into my question a little bit. How much would the Oilers leaving affect selling Houston? If I've listened to both, you know, political talk shows and sports talk shows, and they both, you know, disagree on, you know, the effects of the Oilers leaving. I just want to know your opinion.
Well, I view it from two perspectives. I view it first from a business perspective. The Oilers or any professional sport of that magnitude brings a lot of money into your city. How much money, that's being debated right now, as you've probably heard by listening to some of the talk shows, but it's several millions of dollars. The actual loss of a professional sports team like that, I think, is detrimental. I don't think it's the end of the world. I certainly don't think that it's going to prevent us from booking convention business and becoming a viable destination for travel and tourism. It's a piece of the pie, though, and we work all the time very, very hard to add pieces of the pie. You certainly hate to see a loss like this, and I feel like there's a better than good chance that we're going to see that loss right now based on what I know about the negotiations. It's not going to be something that is going to be the downfall of what we do at the Convention Bureau or the hospitality industry. True, most games that are played in a normal situation by professional sports, at least in football, draw very few out-of-towners that rent hotel rooms. If the Houston Oilers play the Chicago Bears, for instance, we see a tremendous amount of hotel rooms rented. This weekend playing the Jaguars, no, you won't see any hotel rooms rented. And the economic impact of that game in a normal season would be minimal, to be very honest with you. But that's not to say that the loss of the team is not going to bring a little bit of a negative on those weekends. The other side of the picture is, has been tossed around. To be a major city and to be a player in America today, it's presumed that you're going to have these major sports teams. I think that's also fairly good reasoning. I think that's part of the picture. But, you know, there are major cities in this country today that are doing quite well as tourist and convention destination cities that do not have a professional football team. Baltimore is a perfect example. When the Baltimore Colts left the city of Baltimore, and a lot of people said, oh gosh, disaster, what are we going to do now? Baltimore is thriving. It is thriving as a destination city for travel, tourism, and convention promotion. And there's probably no way in the near future that they'll ever regain a football team. If you'll look out to L.A. right now, they don't even have a football team. And I'd say L.A.'s doing pretty dadgum good. We're going to do just fine, assuming the Oilers do take to the road and go to Tennessee. I hate to see them go. We'll work very, very hard on attempting to get another team in here, but it's certainly not the loss that some people say it is. It's not going to be the end of the day situation for us.
On the other side of the coin, if we did build another stadium, how much would that affect the Astrodome and the use of the Astrodome if it was another dome stadium as opposed to an outdoor stadium?
I'll try to answer it briefly for you, but I'll preface it by saying I doubt if that's going to be done. Looking at it again from a business perspective, there's only one or two major events right now that we can't host with the Astrodome. One is Super Bowl. One is in relationship to some other major sports type situations, but to be very honest with you, the Dome can accommodate 99.9% of all the major events out there in America today. To build another Dome stadium would be, in my opinion, from a business perspective, a duplication of what we've already got. And to spend $300 million just so the Oilers could stay in town and we could possibly spend a lot of money to get Super Bowl in here, I'm not sure on a balance sheet it works out. Now, there's another alternative, and I think it's an alternative that will be looked at in the future no matter what the Oilers do, and that's an open-air stadium. And I really believe an open-air stadium for football and soccer is the way to go, assuming we try to build any more facilities. Soccer has become so big in this country. We could have a major soccer tournament, meaning major, bringing in probably 15 to 20 to 30,000 people from out of town every weekend for a major soccer event if we had an open-air stadium that could be utilized for both football and soccer. Yes, sir.
You mentioned soccer, you'd have half of the South Americans from Mexico on down, Central America, South America.
It would be
Mexico
an international
itself. It would be an international city all in of itself.
Yes.
But when you say an open-air stadium, we hosted a Super Bowl here, I believe, at Rice Stadium, the one that Miami beat the Vikings in. I don't know what kind of weather was there that day. I was in South Florida, but I don't remember the kind of weather that you had. But that's another consideration when the Super Bowl committee meets. You can have them in Detroit so long as it's a dome stadium. You've got to be able to assure them warm, dry weather, not conditions that will affect the team. And in paraphrasing what Drake McClain, who leases the Astrodome or basically owns it, says, there's nothing that we won't do or the money we won't spend to add your additional seats. Why do you want, through extra taxpayer dollars or even to raise the hotel tax?
Which we're not going to do.
Which we're not going to do it. If you want to build yourself a stadium, you've made your money here. Use your money and do it.
I don't want us to bog down on the stadium here. We need to find out more.
It's a good issue because it is something that the Convention Bureau is very much involved in, and it has to do with facilities of all types. There's more and larger crying needs for us, and I was going to get to that a little later on. But our one negative right now, in competing nationwide for major big convention business, is the fact we don't have a downtown hotel adjacent to the George R. Brown Convention Center. And we're working very, very hard on that. I won't dwell on that very long, but we're very, very close at this point in time, probably only 30 to 60 days out from making announcements of that downtown hotel in an arena of 1,200 hotel rooms. And following that close on the hills, we're going to push very hard for an expansion of the George R. Brown Convention Center. That hall right now is about 500,000 gross square feet. And for instance, the hall in New Orleans is going through an expansion to go beyond 1 million square feet. The World Congress Center in Atlanta is beyond 1 million square feet.
Orlando doubled theirs.
Well, Orlando just actually doubled, but more importantly, their plan was actually a twofold expansion, and they just opened expansion 1 and already have expansion 2 under construction to go to about 1.2 million. The center in Dallas just went through an expansion and opened just a few short months ago, and they're now up close to 1 million square feet. So it gives you an idea of what our needs are. We need to expand the George R. Brown only after we get a new convention center hotel, which really opens us up to about 20% of the major convention market that for various reasons we cannot host at this time. Meeting planners won't bring in their meetings of 5,000 and 10,000 in that particular range because we don't have the downtown package and we don't have the downtown convention center hotel. Yes, sir.
Given that a lot of people speak Spanish here, could you imagine the revenue if you did have that soccer stadium and you had half of South America and Central America coming here on a weekend basis frequently?
It'd be positive. That's why we're looking
at the revenue would be.
Well, we're already doing great business out of Mexico, Central and South America. The hotels in and around the Galleria, as well as the Galleria itself, has about 33% of their gross right now from the Spanish-speaking peoples from the South. Yes, sir.
I mean to change the subject, but this got me thinking. About a year ago, or maybe a little over a year ago, they were talking about building downtown casinos, and I've forgotten. Is that still an issue, or is that something that
Well, it's still an issue because it is it'll only be accomplished if and when the state of Texas legislature passes a bill which makes casino gambling legal in the state of Texas. So this next session in the Texas legislature, there's no doubt in my mind that there will be a very strong push to legalize gambling, casino gambling in the state of Texas. We've been told that it's going to be far more organized than it was before. It's only been brought to the table once, and it was defeated. I believe that there is a chance that that will be passed. I'm not sitting here advocating that necessarily because, again, I think that's a piece of the pie. That's not an end-all situation. A downtown casino certainly would not be the cure-all for all and many ills that any inner city or any city has. As a matter of fact, there's a negative side of that picture also that is realistic and very real, and I think cities and communities have to look very, very hard and analyze in an objective way, do they really want casino gambling based on the positives and the negatives that casino gambling brings in. For instance, I wouldn't want our new convention center hotel to be a casino because I know what happens in a casino from an occupancy standpoint. I want a convention center hotel that I can get 3/4 to 7/8 of the rooms dedicated to convention groups. And if that convention center hotel was a casino, then out of the 1,200 rooms, after it really started rolling, I'd only be able to get about 300 rooms for convention business. And convention business truly affects the entire community. The casino business truly affects only a very, very small percentage of your community from a dollar standpoint. Convention dollars, major convention business comes in. All of the businesses from the Galleria to shopping to any type of retail, other businesses that are suppliers to the convention industry. It's so far-reaching beyond the hotel and restaurant business when a convention comes to town that it is truly bringing and creating hundreds of thousands of jobs. In this city today, the hospitality industry, fueled by business travelers, convention business, and tourism traffic, is bordering on being the second largest industry in our community from the standpoint of jobs creation. And then, of course, that money flows over into everybody else's coffers that receive benefit from those people being at work. Let me go on just a second and just give you a little more brief on what is in the Convention Bureau from the standpoint of departments. We've talked about convention sales, convention services. We also have a tourism sales and marketing department, and we have an advertising communications department that heads up all of our advertising for convention and tourism endeavors. Back up a second, our tourism sales and marketing function is relatively new. If I had anything that I would have changed when I came here 3 years ago, it would have been that this city had an effective tourism program ongoing long before I got here. For various reasons, this community and this Convention Bureau did not engage itself in an aggressive tourism advertising and promotional campaign until 3 years ago when we revamped this bureau, increased the funding and the direction. The tourism business and tourism advertising and tourism promotion in any city, no matter what type of city it is, really fuels your convention sales and your ability to book convention business. Because if you have promoted a city from a tourism standpoint, then most of America would know of your city's attributes, all those attributes that we talked about a little earlier, the attractions and all the festivals and events and the sports and you name it. Unfortunately, because of the lack of a tourism promotion effort in this city, you get out in America today and talk to the average meeting planner, they know very little about Houston. They know very little about Houston as a destination for travel and tourism. Whereas we have started this program, it's a long-range program of work. we're 5 to 10 years away from really doing what this city should be doing as a destination city. Urban tourism is alive and well in America today. People travel to major cities for many different reasons. They travel to see family and friends. They travel for the arts, performing and visual. They travel for sports activity. They travel simply to get away. The man and his wife simply get in the car to go to the major city to spend the weekend in a first-class hotel and go out to eat in first-class restaurants. This happens all over America. We haven't promoted Houston as one of those destination cities. We probably have the best package in Texas. We probably have a better package, to be very honest with you, an overall array of offerings better than Dallas, better than Austin, better than San Antonio. Fact is, we just haven't promoted it. We started really hitting advertising in the state of Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, and Oklahoma. Those were our target markets in the beginning of our program 2.5 years ago. We've seen some major effective advertising that is starting to really produce now. This past summer, just ending, we had probably the highest tourism numbers that this city's ever had. One of the very interesting statistics is that we cut them off at the pass, so to speak, on the way to San Antonio. By really blitzing Louisiana, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Mississippi, in those areas, all those people have to drive down I-10 to go to the very successful tourism destination, San Antonio. For the first time ever in San Antonio's 20-year history of promoting that city as a destination for travel and tourism, they had a flat year, and we are responsible for it. And that was our objective, to cut them off at the pass. The recent survey done by the State of Texas Commerce Department shows that, and you may be surprised by this, that the city of Dallas, Fort Worth, the Metroplex area is, from a standpoint of numbers of people, is the #1 destination for travel and tourism in this state, the whole complex. Number 2 this past year, Houston. We surpassed San Antonio. And it has a lot to do with the size of this city, the number of hotel rooms, the offering. So the average Houstonian who really doesn't view their city as a destination for travel and tourism just really don't know what the figures and the facts have emerged into being over the past 2 or 3 years. We're running and gunning. We've got a cooperative effort now. And this is really what our tourism department has strived for, the team effort, bringing all of the players together in the attractions industry and working with them to promote this city, because this is going to have lasting effects on our convention solicitation effort, our business and economic development effort here. People want to move headquarters, for instance, to a city that has a good lifestyle for their employees. And if they feel good about Houston, and there's a lot to feel good about, the decreasing crime effort, for instance, is one that we have really promoted strongly. Our downtown area has the lowest crime rate of any major city in America today, the lowest. Our major crime has dropped over the past 2 years, 16% and 15% each year, because of what is happening in Houston with the police department, what Mayor Lanier is doing in that particular arena.
Things. I'll go backwards with you on the police thing. The presence of more patrol officers has been shown to deter crime. So you see more presence of more patrol officers who are picking up people on petty vagrancy charges. They're cleaning up the streets, which makes it more attractive for people to come downtown. But we still don't have a downtown nightlife. It's been rumored for quite some time that the Convention Bureau, and as well as the city, wants to make, like Dallas has an area as such, that has a downtown nightlife, like a string of nightclubs, restaurants that are open where people can park their cars and go walking. We still don't have that. We may have a party on the plaza, but that wraps up at what time, 10 o'clock? We still don't have that kind of facility. And the second thing that I was going to say is, when you say Dallas-Fort Worth, I think the contribution to that would be the show Dallas. It was shown in 59 nations in different languages, and everybody always equated Texas to J.R. Ewing.
Yeah, it really helped. There's no doubt about that. But they've done a real good job, too. Let's don't take away from what the city's done in promoting. They've had a long run of successes. The Convention Bureau in Dallas and in Fort Worth, I might add, does an excellent job promoting those cities and those destinations. They really do a good job.
Lose the judicial conference to San Antonio this year?
Well, we lose a lot. We lose things because we're aggressively going after everything. The fact is we've won about 9 out of 10 major bids we've gone out in the last 2 years. And I'll get to that in a minute to give you some facts and figures on what we've actually booked, and it'll blow your mind. To kind of talk about something you just talked about, the downtown. It's all over America. A lot of cities are having a struggle with their downtown situation. The city of Houston has worked very, very hard on this for some time, and we are about to open up. Already, all the contracts have been signed. We're going to open up the old convention center in the theater district as an entertainment emporium. It's under construction now. This is another piece of the pie. I think if it is successful, and I'm hoping that it will be, because people who run Dallas Alley, for instance, are the major leaseor in that new facility. So we will have, by the summer of '96, opening a entertainment, restaurant, emporium type situation downtown Houston.
And you heard it first here, folks.
Well, contracts have all been signed, and it's already, construction is already underway, and I think it's going to be a very positive situation for us. The convention side of the picture, and let's go back to that now because that's really what we're talking about here, coordinating a convention effort with large meeting planners. We really organized the troops, so to speak, 3 years ago in Houston, and that's really what a convention bureau can do for you. There's some specific sales and marketing that a bureau is supposed to be doing, but one of the major philosophies that we have dealt with is a team effort here in Houston. We brought all the general managers and directors of sales of the hotels in and said, look, we've got to work together. We have to pool our money, our expertise, all the people that work for us in our convention sales departments. We've got to be going in the same direction. So we have put together about a 55-page program of work. It's been revised now for the 3rd time in 3 years to aim at various convention markets, spend our money in marketplace arenas, work with fam trips, direct advertising and communication to meeting planners, the big picture approach, but written down in black and white what we're going to do and how we're going to do it together. When I got here 3 years ago, the Bureau, in coordination with the hotel community and the 2 major convention centers, the George R. Brown and the Astrodome USA complex, booked about 215,000 room nights of convention business 3 years ago. First year I was here, we moved that up to 350,000 room nights booked. Second year we went to about 460,000 room nights booked. And this last June, when we finished my 3rd year here, we just booked 585,000 room nights booked for future years. So in other words, we've taken a city that was very mediocre in its bookings for the future, booking 4 years ago at the end of that time 215,000 room nights, to a position here just finishing a couple of months ago 575,000 room nights. Our goal this year is to go to 650,000 room nights booked this year that we're working in now. I think we're going to reach a plateau with that. We may reach 700,000 room nights booked for future years, but I think that's about it, unless we get the new convention hotel built. The building of that convention center hotel, the marketing that we've already done, the sales and the prospecting we've already done with that hotel in the picture, we'll very easily go to booking 1 million room nights a year for future years with that one hotel construction and an expansion of the George R. Brown. So we will basically, over a 4 or 5 year period of time, take a city that was very mediocre in its convention bookings, around 200,000 room nights plus, to 1 million room nights plus. Now, it doesn't take a mathematician to figure out what that does to your hotel community. You got about 40,000 hotels in Harris County. Excuse me, 40,000 hotel rooms in Harris County. All you have to do is multiply that out by 365, and you've got how many room nights are available in the county in any given year. If we're booking 1 million room nights a year for future business, and we're doing that every year, well, let's just take what we're doing right now, close to 600,000 room nights. You can see that we're really adding cream on top of the cake now. We're really giving these hotels convention business, which is cream on top of the cake. They themselves are still booking their smaller corporate business. They themselves are still booking the smaller convention business that we're not involved in at the Convention Bureau level. They're still booking their corporate meeting business and have their corporate meeting transient occupancy. So what we're doing here is taking an occupancy level that started about 3 years ago at averaging somewhere in the low 60s to over 70%. Another thing that we're doing by bringing in this major convention business is we are raising the average daily rate, which was one of our objectives. We've already raised the average daily rate in 3 years, almost 15% here in Houston. So anybody in the hotel business in this county today that is doing a decent job of management, has a good looking property from a brick and mortar standpoint, has some good employees that really know their business, they're making money. That wasn't the case 5 and 6 years ago. So the Convention Bureau is the coordinating entity for all of this major convention solicitation effort. It's a coordinating entity for major advertising thrust on the tourism and the convention side of the picture. It's a coordinating entity for promoting advances such as the brick and mortar changes that we're working on right now in relationship to a new hotel and to an expansion at the convention center downtown, and hopefully an upgrading of the convention facilities at the Astra Hall and Astro Arena. We have a tremendous ability to book business. Got great airline traffic in here, 2 hometown airlines with Continental and Southwest that provide us with excellent air traffic into this city, along with the other major carriers that come in here in they're minor players. We have tremendous opportunities south of the border into Mexico, Central and South America. A year and a half ago, we opened up a full-time staffed office in Mexico City to go after the group business out of Mexico. We're the only city in Texas that has a fully staffed office in Mexico going after that group business, and it's really paid off because we stuck with them when the peso went south on them in January and February this past year. We're really reaping the benefits of that office down there. So the Convention Bureau is a coordinating entity. The communication that we have to have with the hotels has to be superb. We have to communicate all of these various programs to the hotel community, the restaurant community, all the players in the industry, the airlines, our partners in promotion. We have to communicate what the meeting planners want. We have to respond to meeting planners. And let's talk about specifics of working with a meeting planner from a bureau perspective, a meeting planner for a major group. I brought a prospectus here today, really a couple of them. This first one that I hold here is Lions Club International. It's a civic organization that you're all familiar with. They have an annual meeting each year. It's huge. According to their location, they sometimes pull as many as 15,000 to 20,000 people. Let's see, this particular prospectus is basically 6 pages long and details all of their needs. It details everything they need. This is in our hands because we're bidding on this particular group right now for I think it's about the year 2003. How did we get to this point? We got to this point through really all of our sales managers have markets that they work. We have a sales manager that has in his market all the civic clubs in America. So what he did was contact the national office of the Lions Club International and start working with them on the possibility of Houston putting a bid in. And by bidding, of course, I hope you know what that means. Bidding means getting yourself in position to submit a proposal for your city to be the site. It's not, the term bid is not used in our industry like it is in an auction house. It's not bidding dollars. It's actually, and a better term really if we were using it, would be invitation to meet in your city. Invitation would be a better term, but in our business somewhere along the way, we, the hoteliers and the convention bureaus, adopted that term bid, so we'll use it. We put ourselves in the position to bid on Lions Club International by talking with their staff, getting local contacts of Lions Club in the state of Texas involved with us in our bid and our invitational effort, getting them, the local contacts, convinced that Houston could host this meeting and that we would, the Convention Bureau, would work with their staff and volunteers to help them put this meeting on if in fact Houston was chosen. Next step, the home office of Lions Club International, which is in Illinois. As a matter of fact, it's in Oak Brook, Illinois. sent us this prospectus, which details everything that Lions Club has to have. And there's a subtlety to this prospectus which kind of tells you how important a bureau is, because all the terms in here, for instance, whereas said bureau represents that it has authority to act for the hotels, etc., etc. All through this prospectus, the word bureau is used. The bureau guarantees that any rate increases, etc., etc. So the Lions Club only works with a convention bureau. If there's 5 or 6 hotels in a community that wants to go after Lions Club, they have to work through the bureau to do it, because the Lions Club international meeting planners and decision makers know that the only way they can go into a city with 15 to 20,000 people is if the convention bureau coordinates that effort for them. Going through this particular prospectus, there's a section on guest rooms which you have to respond to, guaranteeing them that you have a housing package that will facilitate their 20,000 people coming to your city in a good manner to what their standards are. Function space, a whole section just on the convention headquarters hotel. A lot of people have asked me, why is one hotel downtown Houston a deterrent? We have 45,000 hotel rooms. We have hundreds of hotels, major hotels, good-looking hotels, Hyatts, Westons, Doubletrees, etc., etc. Fact is, put yourself in the seat of the meeting planner. He or she has requirements in most cases with major groups where they have to have a headquarters hotel in connection with a convention center for their VIPs, their board, their staff, etc., etc. And if you don't have that convention center hotel that's in connection with the convention center, very, very close proximity, where they can put all their VIPs, even though they may use 10,000, 15,000 hotel rooms, they got to have that core group of rooms, 800 to 1,000 rooms, directly across the street from the convention center. So there's a whole section in this prospectus that says convention center hotel, and how you have to answer all these questions about where that hotel is and how close it is to the center and how many rooms you can commit there. Convention hall facilities, and it's got numerous questions that you have to answer concerning the specifics of this particular organization. One that's very interesting here, district governors elect opening session and ladies fashion shows. You have to show them, this is again what we were talking about, the accompanying persons program with Lions International. The members of Lions International are the men. They all bring their wives. And in this case, if you can't show them that you've got facilities and ability to host the ladies, I don't care what else you have, they're not going to come to your city. Goes on to temporary help and personnel. How are you going to supply them with personnel and help and for registration assistance and information booths? Our Convention Services Department does that. We have over 250 part-time employees of the Convention Bureau that do nothing but register conventions and man visitor information booths for us that we pay and we give to convention groups. It's the norm in the industry. If you book Houston, or if you book Atlanta, or you book San Francisco, it doesn't make any difference. One of the things you're going to do as a meeting planner is say, okay, you're going to have to provide me with 35 people to assist with registration for 5 days in a row and 8 or 10 people to manage information booths at the George R. Brown or the Astrodome. We got to do that. So does San Francisco. So does part of the norm. Parade. They have a big parade. So I've got to fill out all this information to satisfy their needs for 13,000 participants, 90 to 100 marching delegations, 20 to 25 bands, 5 to 10 floats, last 4 to 5 hours, and the Bureau agrees to furnish at its sole expense the following, and it goes on to talk about everything that we've got to do in relationship with the city and the police department and municipal parks for a marshalling area for a parade if we're going to book this piece of convention business. Convention bus shuttle. We've talked about shuttle bus systems. We've got to provide them with a shuttle bus service, and we got to pay for it. Local attractions. We've got to give them all a listing of all local attractions and descriptive brochures, etc., 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 because this is a family convention. And there is an accompanying persons program that's very, very important. On-site inspection. Here they talk about coming to the city for on-site inspection during the bid process. And they want us to fly their people into town and make sure that all the facilities are what we say they are, host them for 3 or 4 days while their delegation does this. Well, you're starting to get the idea.
Will you do that?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, okay.
FAM trips. We, as part of our convention sales effort, we bring in, this past year we brought in 9 major familiarization events. We had 9 familiarization FAM trips, that is called in our business, where we work with Continental Airlines, Delta Airlines, Southwest. They give us the tickets. We fly in meeting planners. This past year, on the 9 trips, we averaged about 50 people a trip. We toured them through the George R. Brown, the Astrodome USA. Of course, we pre-qualified them first, made sure they had business for us, invited them to come to Houston, and really gave them the song and dance about what Houston was all about. We get tremendous bookings out of this type of an effort. We go to trade shows. The American Society of Association Executives is the largest convention of its type in America today. ASAE is made up of meeting planners. Every trade association executive in the country, the CEO of the American Heart Association, American Bankers Association, the Lions Club International, et cetera, all these men and women belong to the American Society of Association Executives. Their annual meeting this year was in August in Washington, D.C. There was about 15,000 meeting planners there. So in a trade show format, every city, every supplier that you can imagine, from airlines to decorators to major hotels like Hyatt, Westin, Sheraton Corp, you name it, Hilton, we're all there in the trade show arena with booths while these 10 to 15,000 meeting planners came through the trade show. Our hotels went with us. We had a large booth depicting Houston, and we were in the trade show venue for 3 days in a row on our feet talking to meeting planners. We get a lot of contacts this way. We constantly telemarket. We just had a 5-day blitz telemarketing-wise where every major hotel in the city came together with us in a room at the Astrodome. We set up phone banks. We had 50 people doing nothing for 5 days, but on the phone prospecting future business for Houston. We take all of this, we prospect, we talk one-on-one with meeting planners, we get to the prospectus stage, we get to the site selection stage, we make an invitation, which is hopefully better than the other guys down the road, and we book the business. Everybody's doing this. There's major competition in America today for this type of business. And because of that, every city now funds a convention bureau, large and small. There's, when I got in this business 25 years ago, there are only about 85 members of the International Association of Convention and Visitor Bureaus. Now, there's over 800 members of the International Association, member cities. So every little city in America today has some level of funding for a Convention and Visitor Bureau effort. So the competition is tremendous. But the nice thing about the competition is that, say we lose that meeting this year that you mentioned to San Antonio, that's okay, because they meet every year. They meet every year. It's not like selling steel I-beams. Once you sell that steel I-beam and they build that bridge, the likelihood of them building that bridge again is slim and none in our lifetime. But the American Society of Public Works, the Lions Club International, meets every year. So what do we do if we lose our bid on this year to, say, Chicago? It's all right. That's okay. We'd love to have won. We get them on the phone and say, when can we bid again? We want to be in the ball game next year. Sometimes with major groups, you have to bid 2 and 3 years in a row to get them, especially if it's a political vote within the organization, which I hate. I'd much rather it be a small committee making the decision rather than a floor vote, which happens quite often. That's the name of our business. If you've got any questions about what a convention bureau does, the funding, political aspects of what I do, as you can tell, I work on the political side of the picture as well as the professional side. It's a two-sided coin. It's an exciting business. What keeps me going, as I said, is the diversity of the day's activity. But I'll tell you that this particular business is not only exciting because of the change of what's going on, but it's exciting because I know that we are creating economic development and jobs and a future for the citizens of this community by being aggressive in our tourist and convention promotional effort. Our objective is to take back our piece of the pie from Dallas and San Antonio and New Orleans and Atlanta, and then our second level objective is to start taking away their piece of the pie and bringing in more business than they're getting. And we do have that ability.
Now, we may have kind of skimmed past, if you're working with a small group, 300 people, 500 people, is there a role for the Bureau in
Certainly.
that?
Certainly is. We book all types of business. Now, when I say we, again, please keep in mind it's the Convention Bureau and the hotels working together. If we book home builders, as you can tell, it was a coordinated effort. The Bureau might have led the charge and might have had the responsibility for coordinating, but if I didn't have every hotel working with me, we couldn't have been successful. And we may have done the lion's share of the coordinating. With a smaller group of, let's say, 250 to 300 that could fit inside of numerous hotels in this particular city, what we normally do is get to the prospectus stage, send the bid out, and if we book the meeting, then we have a site selection and we turn it over to the hotels and let them coordinate and do a lot of the in-house coordination that we would do on a citywide basis for meeting planning. That's just common sense, and I'm sure most of you understand that.
Right. Or if I knew I had a group coming in, I could come down and get literature from the Bureau to distribute to delegates.
Certainly can do all of that. Our Convention Services Department does as much as man the registration desk for you, to as little as give you name tags and let you do it yourself.
But they wouldn't have to type up their own restaurant lists.
That's exactly right. We do all of that. And all of this is to book the business and to get the return business.
I had a question for her. I apologize.
No problem.
For her, but it's more appropriate after the class concerning an assignment, but I was going to run it by you, but it's more appropriate that I run it by her.
Well, this working with the small meeting planner is integral to us being successful, because even though groups are of 300, if we do a good job with the meeting planner and make sure that that lady or gentleman is taken care of by the Hyatt or by the Westin or by the Sheraton, et cetera, the next thing you know, that same meeting planner may be in charge of a meeting of 10,000 or be influential in a vote. So just because it's a board meeting of 50 people, we don't slough off on it. We make sure that that meeting planner gets all the vital information that he or she needs in making a decision for a group of 50 people coming to Houston. We make sure by sending leads out to the hotel community that the hotel sales department gets all the specific information that they need to then reply to the meeting planner. In most cases with major groups, we're the ones that put the bid or the invitation together and reply. A lot of times we'll get a call that simply says, I've got a group of 100 people, I want to look at the Galleria area, send me information on all those hotels. What we do is send a lead then to just the hotels in the Galleria area, because that's what the meeting planner wanted, and then we ask the hotels to respond directly to the meeting planner, and we step back out of it and they book the business. Yes, sir.
I guess that sort of answered my question. I was just curious, as when you said you would send out a bid to the hotel, does that mean that you'll negotiate a rate for the organ? Okay.
No, you're exactly right. We very rarely negotiate a rate in any case.
Invitation.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, when we send out a lead to the hotel community, if it's even on a major group, sometimes we will tell them the range in which the meeting planner expects, but we never talk with them about any rate fixing or pricing. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I think we're going to have to pause. We're running out of time here, but you can chat after class. We want to take this opportunity to thank you again.
Thank you.
Very well informed, as you should be, but we appreciate your expertise and your taking the time to be with us today. Check that syllabus, folks. Bye.